gotta love each other, bro.
This is the thing, right? The problem that we're missing is spirituality. People done forgot about that.
Yeah, but for how long? You think?
Hey, we can't do that.
No, we're
can't
doomed.
do that.
We're doomed, bro.
We can't do that until the last nuke drops, bro. We gotta talk positive point where we're in this together, where we love each other. And by the way, that was never really the case, but we gotta get there.
It becomes a situation where there's so many different religions now, but when you think about it, we're all going to the same place. We're all literally worshiping the same, God. We just translation by language or by anything, we just call them something different. But when you really look at religion, we all have the same commandments. We all have the same stories. It might be told by a different person or a different name attached to that story, but the story don't change. Maybe the characters may change from a standpoint of the name they call them. But in actuality, my grandfather told me something that was super, super important that always stuck with me. He said, look at the way God put us. He already knew that we all would be, designed differently. We all would have different cultures. We all would speak different languages. We all would be born in different places. But at the end of the day, he made sure that no matter what circumstance or area or religion that you follow, that there was always the one God at the top of the ladder. Now, this is religion, and always never forget this. Look at it like a navigation, right? We all going to the same place, but there's different directions to get there.
It's just perhaps maybe why some of it's being lost is I mean, again, we're in the scientific revolution, and a lot of the scientific developments and advancements and conversations that are being had now that were never had before, where acts of God can now be explained by science.
Right.
And the amount of holes that can be poked in certain religions makes it harder for certain people to have that blind faith.
Absolutely.
If they don't have an experience themselves, if they're not having that daily conversation with whatever God they're worshiping, if they're not receiving the fruits of their labor, life's hard. Life's hard. And how much faith can you put into a thing that you're not sure of now?
See, that's the key. The key is not really to put the faith in the thing. See, growing up in Africa, we just saw things differently. And then growing up from a rural standpoint, you see it even more different, right? Whenever I get to the point where I have to question myself if God exists, I always go back to when I was young. And I have these conversations with my grandpa, because he was very influential in me being spiritual. He said, always think about life. How did it start? That tells you everything you need to know.
I think, though, a part of the reason why people may land on God or want to believe that something did start from nothing is because we want explanations. Our species wants answers.
That's why they call it faith.
That's exactly why they call it faith.
Dude, it's hard to
That's
not
why.
know why
Right.
we're here and what we're doing. That's kind
It's
of
really,
depressing.
it's really Plato.
I want an answer.
It's Plato.
What are we doing here? How did we get here?
But that's what I'm saying. Humans, we're nosy creatures by nature.
Yeah.
We gotta talk. We gotta get back to a point where we're in this together, where we love each other. And by the way, that was never really the case, but we gotta get there. We gotta love each other, bro.
This is the thing, right? The problem that we're missing is spirituality. People done forgot about that. Like, no one grows up literally being fearful of God anymore. So some people don't even know it exists, right? They want to believe it, but to them, in their minds, there's no signs physically that tells them that religion or spirituality is real. Because now it's about seeing, tasting, feeling, and
The five senses.
right.
Yep.
Right. But I grew up differently. And to answer your question before I go into the spiritual side is that I don't honestly feel bad. And I don't feel like, the work that I've done is going to be done in vain, because I always believe that no matter what the situation is, you will always be rewarded for doing the right thing. Even if you don't know if it's how it's coming.
Karmatic.
Right.
Yep.
The reward is there.
Yep.
How? You'll never know, but just do it not expecting anything back in return.
Yeah.
And you'll be good. You'll feel great
Life
about
key
it.
right there.
Yeah,
That's the
Give
key.
without expectation.
Absolutely.
In return.
That's the key.
Energy.
So getting back to the spiritual side of it though, which is interesting, is that this generation don't even know what that is. It's like, you couldn't, if you tried to explain it to them, they'd think you're preaching to them. They don't really believe you, because there's never been never been put in a position where spirituality was relevant enough for them to believe, enough to follow through with what we were taught growing up. Like, our parents instilled it in us. and they represented it. So if I woke up, as a Muslim, I had to go to pray every Friday with my pops. It happened. It was not a question. You had to go do it. Today you have a choice. Like my wife, she's Christian. I never forced her to convert. Because in the way I was taught in Africa, Islam is an extension of Christianity. We believe everything. We actually believe all the same thing. We just don't believe in the Holy Ghost. That's the only thing. But everything else is all the same commandments, same stories. Jesus is a prophet. We all believe the same, right? The only problem was that you have people that, when you go into paganism and, worshiping statues and everything else, we just don't believe that there's no one or anything higher than the Most High, which is God. And no man should ever be looked at as God himself. We're all messengers of God. We're all messiahs to our own extent.
And so that's the conflict with
That's
Jesus.
the conflict with Jesus. We don't believe that Jesus was God in man's flesh.
Yep.
We don't. We just believe that he was a messenger of God as the Messiah.
Yep.
So we're not that far off.
Right. I would never want to speak out of ignorance about the Muslim religion because I don't understand it as well as I do Christianity.
Right.
But I will say this. I agree with you in a lot of ways that lack of traditionality and godlessness has pushed to a lot of the issues that we're seeing in today's day and age.
I agree.
But I will also say that I think that there's starting to be a pushback. You're starting to see a pretty strong, even on social media, pushback from, honestly, even people like Tate and like people that are driving this more youth-directed narrative to get back to God.
Right.
And so, you're seeing it. It's palpable.
So I can't look at you and say, okay, because you're Jewish that, you're not spiritually sound or you're not going to heaven or whatever place that is, or because you're Buddhist or because of whatever. At the end of the day, we all have this one thing that we all follow, that there's a Most High, right? There's a God that we give praises to, and he's the reason why we want to become better for everyone else, to better ourselves in the eyes of his. In all aspects, even if it's yourself, even if you believe that I'm God, it's okay, because in actuality, we are gods. We create life, whatever. And if you want to be better for yourself and do the right thing so you can feel good about yourself, then so be it. But God is more of an energy, more of a spirit. It's to enlighten you to want to be better for yourself and everybody else that's attached to you. And I think that route is the piece that hasn't been taught. It's not about a specific religion and following an exact rule to the T.